All right, so as I said last night, I've got a ton of respect for this football team, players and the coaches. You know, we all put a lot into it this week, and they put everything we had into it, and thought we got a lot of great leadership, from a lot of players, certainly our captains. Thought they, in particular, played extremely hard last night, as the entire team did. Unfortunately, we came up basically a point short, and nobody feels very good about that, nor should they. That's the type of competitive team that we have. So, proud of the way these guys have worked and competed all year. Wish we could have done a little bit more, but that's life in the NFL, and so that's really about it. We're less than 12 hours here from the end of the game. Sure, there are a lot of questions about the future. Nobody's thought about the future. Everybody's been focused and working on Miami and then Tennessee. And that's where all the focus should have been and where it was. And so whatever's in the future, we'll deal with at some later point in time. We're certainly not going to deal with it now. But it's always a tough ending to the year. But that's, we lost to a team that was a little better than us last night. So.
No microphones to pass, but raise your hand while calling you. Microphone.
Bill, after the game, Matthew Slater said it was important to understand, have everybody in the room, locker room, understand that this loss last night didn't define the team. How would you define the characteristics beyond what you just said about what stood out to you about the 2019 Patriots?
Yeah, I think Matt put it well. Matt did a great job after the game of, I think, capturing the moment of the situation and everyone's feelings. And I wouldn't have anything to add to that. I tried to articulate it the best I could, and that's what it was, what it is.
Henry McKenna?
Bill, wondered how you felt about Steve Belichick's performance this season.
Yeah, I put everybody really in the same category. Our coaching staff, our players worked extremely hard all the way back to the spring training camp through the season. Thought the entire team competed, gave their best. Sometimes it was good enough, sometimes it wasn't, but we tried to keep improving. All of us, starting with me. So there are plays or decisions or things we'd like to have back, could do over again, but we prepared and did our best in the situation. So we came up a little bit short.
Bill, obviously given Tom Brady's age, and there's been a lot of talk about his future, do you have a timeline in your mind for when you'd like to sit down and
No.
Do you have, would you like to get clarity on his situation by the time the new league year starts?
Honestly, look, I know it's out there just like there's a lot of other things out there. We could bring up 50 questions just like that one. And I told you what my state is on that. And so you can ask all 50 of them, and it's going to be the same answer 50 times, Ben. We've been working on Tennessee. It's 12 hours after the game. I'm not going to talk a lot of things about the future because I'm not prepared to talk about.
I don't have 50 questions.
I'm sure you do. You can name 50 guys, 50 coaches. There's plenty. You could talk about anything you want about in the future. And they're all questions that need to be answered at some point in time by the organization, by myself, by the coaching staff, by some of the players. But those are collective decisions that are not made by one person. They're made collectively. And there's a lot of time and thought and effort and communication that goes into that. And now's not the time.
I certainly appreciate that. I have just one more. If Tom says he wants to come back and play,
And
is
it's
he
the
your
same
quarterback
answer
next
that
year?
I just gave you. We can just keep going if you want to.
Did you hear the whole question? Because you talked over some of it. I said, if
Yeah, I got it.
If
Yeah,
he says he wants to play, is he your quarterback next year?
And I gave it the same answer that I just gave you on the other ones, and we can go through some more if you want to. It's fine.
What about you, Bill? Will you be back here coaching this team next year?
I've just answered all these questions. All the future questions are the future. Right? We're 12 hours, less than 12 hours after the game. I think anybody that's competitive and has been in this type of situation, all your focus is on the game, it's not on something else. So hopefully you can respect that, but if you can't, then I've done the best I can to explain it. I'm sorry.
I'll try a different one.
It's as simple as that.
Nobody likes losing, yourself or anybody else. Is there any tiny bit of pride you take in having a guy that was in your organization for a long time, one of your players, coming in here, coaching his team the way he did, and winning that big game?
Yeah, I'm focused on our team. I'm focused on the other 31 teams or the other 1,500 players in the league. I'm focused on our team.
Curran?
It's kind of a future question, not really. It's early relative to what your seasons usually end at. AFC Championship game appearances since 2001. How does that extra time allow you to approach this offseason?
Yeah, well, we'll look at that, and unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, relative to the 2020 team, we have more time, and we'll try to use that time as productively as we can. So we'll sit back, take a look at what the priorities are, what we can try to accomplish, and then make the most efficient use of this time that we can. So that's what we'll do. So has all that been laid out yet? Absolutely not. But that'll be one of the first orders of business.
At some point when you get into positional evaluations, player evaluations, is it more difficult when you look at as you call it, a mosaic, and say, I wonder what would have happened if we had a better group around someone at a particular position? You have to get into the variables involved with particular players' performance.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think anytime you look ahead to the next team, you think more about the future than the past. So whatever it was in 03, 05, 11, 15, 18, pick any year you want, whatever it was. But in the future, it's the 2020 team, and, to a degree beyond that. So I think that's really where the focus is.
I guess I just mean the immediacy of, okay, this play didn't look good in this game, and the player who was involved might have been in a bad spot because of something else that was beyond his control. So how is it harder to evaluate? Like say,
I think that's inherent in every year, every situation, every team. I've never been a part of a team where, there are things that you take into consideration that happen during the year, injuries, game plans, matchups, et cetera, and you take them into consideration, and you do the best you can to evaluate it.
And what's
Looking backwards, how would you assess your offense, particularly the last few weeks of the season?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about this through the course of the year. I mean, look, we scored, a high number of points. There were times where it was in all three phases of the game. There were times when things were good. There were other times where they were average, and other times they weren't so good. So there are a lot of things that, we'd like to improve on. And that's, again, I think you say that pretty much in every year. Several very, very close games that came down to the next to last possession in our season, especially the games that we lost, other than the Baltimore game. And, play here, play there, call here, call there, decision here, decision there. And, things might look a little different, but they didn't, and that's what it is.
Barry?
Bill, in retrospect, obviously there was a lot of coaching turnover before the season even started. But I'm curious, how would you assess maybe the manageability of your own personal workload?
Got too many syllables in there for me, Phil. Can you give me that in English?
Do you feel like,
Manageability.
how do you feel about what was on your own
Plate personally, and do you feel like
Look,
it was manageable?
Yeah. Well, look, when you're the head coach of a football team, you can do whatever you want. in terms of how you distribute the workload on your staff. You know, that's one of the advantages of being a head coach. When I was a tight ends coach, you coach the tight ends. You didn't have anything to say about anybody else, really, which is the way it should be. So, you know, I try to manage my team and do the most effective job that I can to help our football team. That's what I try to do. Could it be better? Yeah, I'm sure it could be, like everything else. But I feel that way every year. And so each situation is different, each year is different, and I can assure you that I'll do my best to help our football team in any capacity that I can, as long as I'm here, whatever that might be. So, whatever it was, just like everything else, whatever it was, it was. Whatever it's going to be is hopefully what will be best for the team.
Chair Sullivan?
Bill, I do want to respect what you asked about the 12 hours away from the game, but at the same time, I hope you would respect, we don't get to do this very often, so I don't know when we're going to next get to ask you a question. Would you at least concede that Brady's status is different from the other 50 questions? This is a guy who's been here for 20 years and has won you 6 Super Bowls, and people are wondering if he's going to be here next year.
Everybody's situation on the team is different. There are no two that are exactly the same. So, but the future is the future for all of them, just like it is for Tom and anybody else you want to bring up. And certainly Tom's, you know, an iconic figure in this organization, and nobody respects Tom more than I do. But I respect all the other players and all the other coaches in this organization too. And so, you know, I think that everybody that is part of it is an important part of it. And I want to, you know, give the proper attention and communication and detail and thought into my input into those decisions. But any decisions made is, you know, it's not an individual decision. There are other people involved, and so there has to be some type of communication, understanding, agreement, whatever you want to call it. And that's not a one-way street. I hope you can understand that. Just one person just can't decide what everybody else is going to do. You know, when players aren't under contract, and we have a lot of players that aren't under contract.
Hayden?
How much progression did you see from Jared Stidham just rookie this season?
I think all of our rookies made good, solid progress. They're a lot better than they were when they got here. And, you know, I thought that they, you know, generally speaking, took advantage of their opportunities. There were some ups and downs, like there always are with those players. But overall, I'd say as a group, they would all fall into the same category. I wouldn't want to single anybody out, but I'd say they all fall into that same category. Learned a lot on the field, learned a lot off the field, learned a lot about preparation, and, you know, in the opportunities that they had were a lot better than they were when they started off doing them, even in training camp and in the preseason games. So I think there was a lot of growth, and a long way to go as well.
2 final questions here. Tom Curran?
Bill, I was wondering, the Titans exploited the loophole to kill a bunch of time. You mentioned a little bit about it after the game, but it was apparently you were so irritated on the sideline, brought up the question of why you were so angry when it was something that you had done against the Jets. What was different in that in your mind?
The explanation on how that situation was going to be handled.
Can you tell me what the explanation was?
Yeah, well, that's not really my place. Yeah, do whatever you want. Call whatever you want, Tom. Your numbers on your speed dial, hit the speed dial. That's your decision, not mine.
Can we cut out the middleman? What would they tell you?
Given how the offense kind of sputtered towards the second half of the season and down the stretch, do you wish you had done more in the offseason to bolster that?
Yeah, I mean, again, the team was constructed very competitively. I think that was reflected in our overall play during the course of the year. Again, you know, we lost 4 games. Basically came down to last possession. Again, other than the Baltimore game, which was a pretty competitive game too. So, you know, I think there's areas in every phase of the game: offense, defense, special teams, running game, passing game, pass rush, you know, wherever you want to go. The coaching, you know, strategy, game planning, decision making. I mean, all of us. that had a couple things been a little different, maybe the outcome would have been a little different. So I think we all, had a part in the wins. We all had a part and shared in the losses, and we got to try to do better in all those areas. Each of us that are a part of the team going forward, and each of us did that over the course of the year. So I wouldn't expect that to be any different. Okay. All right. Thanks. Have a good off season. Thanks.